Saul Over Soon.
You're slipping Jimmy. Slipping Jimmy with a law degree is like a chimp with a machine gun.
Blow my magic flute.
Money is not beside the point. Money is the point.
That's what a Chicago sunroof is. Now you know.
Saul Over Soon.
It's a real thing. I didn't make it up.
Nobody wants to leave home.
Welcome to Saul Over Soon, a Better Call Saul podcast. I'm Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth. No, I cannot be your public defendant. I'm here with my co-host, the main man, Magnum Mills. We're going to cover the sixth and final season of Better Call Saul.
Yeah, well, I mean, defendant, defender, it's the same thing. It's all in public, and you can check us out publicly. We're on your favorite podcast platform. It's Saul Over Soon. On social media, it's Saul Over Soon, and you can always send feedback to sauloversoon@gmail.com. On this episode, we are going to break down episode 2 of season 6, and y'all be warned, we are now going to cover and spoil all episodes of Breaking Bad, all episodes of Better Call Saul. That's right, we're spoiling everything, all the Saul, all the Breaking Bad. Ye be warned, from here on out, there be spoilers.
There be lots of them. Shit, we'll even throw El Camino in there. Shout out to El Camino Diner, baby. Magnum Mills, for the record, we just want to let everyone know here, both the first and the second episodes of season 6 aired Monday, April 18th. We'll be covering both, but this show right here, right now, will just be covering episode Dos. That's right, episode 2. Mills, tell us about this episode of Better Call Saul.
This was the second episode of season 6 of Better Call Saul, titled Carrot and Stick. Originally aired April 18th, 2022. This was directed by show co-creator Vince Gilligan. This is the 7th episode of Saul that he has directed. The last was Bagman from season 5, very memorable episode. This one was written by Ariel Levine and Thomas Schnauz. Levine has one other writing credit on Saul. That was that season 5 finale, Something Unforgivable. And this was the 11th writing credit on Saul for Schnauz, whose most recent writing credit here was Bad Choice Road in season 5. And the short plot synopsis for this episode is: harsh realities dawn on Nacho. Gus investigates his suspicions.
Thank you, Magnum Mills. I guess we're ready to start breaking this bad boy down. We're going to recap the episode and then break down the various plot lines and character developments.
This week, we get the cold open at Nacho's house, where a couple of his, they call them girlfriends. I thought Nacho could do a little bit better, maybe. We see them hanging out, doing some weird stuff with Domino's, and then Mike and company come in. Mike gives them cash to get lost, and then they proceed to search the place. They use a drill to break into Nacho's safe. They then bring in a new, identical safe to replace that one that they broke into. Mike transfers most of the items from the original safe to the new one, but he does take the fake ID that Nacho had gotten made for his father and adds an envelope that was not originally amongst the safe's contents.
We go back to the apartment where Saul is trying to come up with a way to start their play against Hammer and Howard Hamlin. They need to find a way to convince Cliff Main that Hamlin might really have a drug problem, building on their con from the previous episode, episode 1. Saul is striking out, so Kim comes up with this glorious idea. However, she tells Saul that he's not going to like it.
We go to the chicken farm, where we see Tyrus and the chicken man studying information about the assault on Lalo's compound. Tyrus says that the dental records of Lalo's alleged corpse checked out. Still, Gus seems to have his doubts. He calls Bolsa and tells him that he has an idea to keep the peace.
We then see Saul pulling up to a very festive trailer, seemingly in the middle of nowhere. The property sports a very distinctive inflatable Statue of Liberty. This turns out to be a tax preparation business run by our old friends, the Kellermans. Saul manages to convince them that they might be able to get Craig's conviction overturned because his lawyer at the time, Howard Hamlin, was on drugs. The Kellermans decline Saul's services, but Saul has planted the seed of Davis and Maine in their minds.
We finally check in with Nacho, who's still at that hotel in Mexico. He's waiting for his call that gives him the signal to leave. He's getting a bit nervous and stir crazy, so he keeps looking out the window. Eventually, he spots a suspicious man and then notes a building with boarded up windows in the distance, and he's not quite sure what he's going to do next.
The Kellermans have taken the bait, and they then show up at Davis and Maine to seek their representation against Hamlin. They tell Cliff Main about Hamlin's supposed drug problem, but don't mention that they got the information from Saul. Cliff informs them that the firm can't represent them due to a conflict of interest. He doesn't believe them, but when they depart, we can see that there's a little bit of doubt starting to creep up into Cliff Maine's mind.
Next, we see Gus and Bolsa visit Hector Salamanca at his nursing home in an effort to make peace. Gus admits that he and Lalo didn't get along, but offers his condolences and assistance in getting revenge for the Salamancas. Hector offers his hand and they appear to bury the hatchet. However, as soon as Gus leaves, he calls Mike and tells him Lalo is still alive.
We then go back to Nacho's house once again, where Bolsa and a crew are breaking into the replacement safe installed by Mike and his guys. They find cash, Nacho's fake ID, and the envelope that Mike left. The envelope contains a bank statement with a phone number written at the bottom. Bolsa calls the number, and we see that it's the number for the motel where Nacho is staying.
At that motel, Nacho is growing more and more paranoid. He's about to call Tyrus, but he thinks better of it, and he sneaks out of his room by kicking out the air conditioner in the back. He sneaks over to that building we noticed earlier with the boarded up windows. In there, he finds a man who's been, surveilling his motel. At gunpoint, the man said that he's paid to watch Nacho, but he doesn't know who hired him. Nacho calls Tyrus and says that he's going to cross the border on his own and hangs up. Not even a minute later, the man's phone rings and Nacho realizes that he's been double-crossed. He thinks about shooting the man, but elects just to knock him out by hitting him with his gun.
We then see Nacho ready to get the absolute hell out of Dodge. He tries to steal a truck. As he's attempting to hotwire it, though, Magnum Mills, that's when all hell breaks loose. The cousins, along with some cartel henchmen, show up and start busting into every room in the motel, looking for Nacho. Nacho tries to hide in the truck, but he ends up in a shootout. He gets pinned down, but the cousins prevent him from being killed because they want him alive. Nacho manages to get the truck started, and he hauls ass out of there, damaging the cousin's truck in the process. Despite the exchange of gunfire, Nacho seems to be okay and on the run once again.
Go Nacho. Back at the apartment, we see Saul get a call from the Kellermans who want to meet with him. Saul agrees, and Kim asks him if he will use the carrot or the stick. Saul says that they're more of the carrot types, and he gets some money from the duffel bag. Kim asks if she can accompany him, and Saul reluctantly agrees.
We're back at the chicken farm, Magnum Mills, and we see Tyrus tell Gus that they found Nacho's truck, but he's still on the run. There's also no sign of Lalo. Mike thinks that Lalo is still in Mexico looking for Nacho. Gus is getting angry, and Mike tells him that they need to go get Nacho before the Salamancas do. Gus declines and tells Mike to bring him Nacho's father, Manuel. Mike declines to do so, and Tyrus responds by showing him his gun. At that moment, Mike's phone rings. Mike tells Gus that it's Nacho, and he asks if he can answer the call. He does, and after listening for a minute, he hands the phone to Gus, saying that Nacho wants to talk to him.
We see Saul and Kim arrive at the Kellermans there back in the desert at the trailer for the meeting. The Kellermans are furious as they've been to multiple lawyers, and none of them think that they have the case. They accuse Saul of using them, and Saul offers them some money, but they turn it down. They demand that Saul make good on his initial promise to have Craig's eviction overturned. If not, they're going to tell Howard Hamlin everything that they know.
At this point, Magnum Mills, Kim has had enough of the carrot, and she breaks out the stick. And boy, is it a big stick. She places a call to the IRS and asks to report a crime. The Kettlemans realize that she's going to expose their fraudulent tax preparation scheme and tell her to hang up the phone. King tells them that they will give their customers the money that they are legally owed and that they will never say a word to Hamlin. They agree and also take the money that Saul offered. Saul is visibly shaken by all this as he says, "Wolves and sheep," referencing the cold open from the episode Inflatable, where young Jimmy sees his father get conned. As they drive away from the Kellermans, we see a gray car following them.
Just a little creep at the end. Like, is it the feds? Is it the cartel? Who kind of knows? But I think it definitely confirms that Kim is in fact in the game now. And let's just start this one out at the beginning with the cold open. And like when the scene started, in this dirty ass apartment they're panning through, just what the hell do you think was going on, Jamie G?
I was honestly, if that scene would have been in black and white, I would have been afraid it was like the death scene of somebody important. This was a weird scene. It was filthy. It was dirty. I don't know if these chicks, like one was just completely stoned, the other one was like high off her ass on meth. Like this was very bizarre, weird scene. I don't know what they're really getting at here, other than like, does Nacho just have like two doped up chicks that he like to keep around to like watch his shit? Like weird, completely filthy. Nacho would never want it to look like that in his kitchen. I didn't really know what to make of the scene.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I guess, interesting with the chick and the dominoes and everything. I don't know if there was something to be like metaphor they were going for, but yeah, I think Nacho could do better than this. And even if they were kind of like girls he hooked up with one time after a night of drinking or something, I don't think he would have like willingly just been like, oh yeah, hang out in my crib or whatever. I do think the interesting part of the scene is just again show the ruthless efficiency of Gus Fring and the competency of Mike. They not only break into the safe nice and easy, like they do it with a little bit of drill, but they replace it so no one notices. And then you see later in the episode, like Bolsa can get in there, but they have to do brute force. They have to go in over the top and just saw the whole thing open, which I think is, again, trying to show just on the fact that Gus and his crew are literally operating at a higher level in the cartel. So, I think it works for the most part. I think it was visually very cool, but it definitely had me worried when you start seeing kind of that, just food everywhere, grungy as shit place. Like, man, like one of our characters is living here? Because I'm worried for that person.
Yeah, somebody died in that place. That's why it looks that way. I mean, it was that looks like Jesse went on a bender and hasn't cleaned in 2 weeks.
Yeah, meth people on a bender. So yes, I would be very worried if that was any of our main Saul characters.
100% Magnum Mills. Let's go down here. For me, let's break down what exactly is happening with Gus and Mike. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in episode 1 that you just listened to. Why do you think that it was so hard to convince Gus that Lalo was dead?
I think that's just part of probably what makes Gus Gus. You know what I mean? He is that attention to detail. The same reason, like, even though technically, like, in theory, Los Pollos Hermanos is a front, but he still makes it a profitable business and cares enough to, go to their bullshit meeting and talk about his new chicken tenders or whatever, or chicken fries or whatever they were. Like, he does pay attention to everything. Plus, I think he just, again, the same way he just somehow managed to figure out, oh, maybe Walter White put a bomb in that car in the parking garage there towards the end of season 4. He's just the dude. He always plays all the angles unless he gets emotional. And I think this is, him being at his best, because what's the worst case scenario? This is, how you play it out as a risk manager, right? All right, so Lalo's dead, but what if he's not? Like, what do we lose by pretending he might still be alive with a little bit extra manpower paid to confirm it? Like, what's really the downside of making sure that's what really happened? Again, that's why, so I think that makes sense. And that's why, the cartel loves Gus Fring, because he's their top earner, because he does, see all the angles.
He really does. He is the angle man. And Magnum Mills, you put
chicken
that
man.
so correct.
Chicken man, but the chickens they can operate at some weird angles. So
yes, they can. Yeah, you covered all the bases there, brother. I don't even have anything to add. Now, one thing that I did want to say here is that I want to talk a little bit about, did Gus only arrange that peace meeting with Hector so we could see him in the flesh to figure out if Lalo was still alive? Or was this something else to appease and continue to play some of the other members in the capo positions of the cartel to kind of make sure that they don't start to suspect that Gus had anything to do with this? Did this serve multiple purposes, Magnum Mills? Because I think it did.
I think that's exactly it. And again, showing how smart Gus is, that this is a double move. This gives him, because again, Bolsa isn't in on Bolsa is the go-between between Gus and the cartel. But Bolsa, generally seems to be maybe a little bit more on Gus's side than the Salamancas, but still, he can't tell Bolsa what's going on. So he does it perfectly here. He offers them a path to peace so the cartel can be like, oh, look, Fring's doing the right thing. He's offering condolences, helping you to get revenge. What else do you want? And then on the other side, he's actually, look in Hector Salamanca's eyes and see this dude talk to Lalo. And you see that, I don't know if it was the way that Hector looked him in the eyes as they, did the handshake thing or whatever. But, Gus knew as soon as he walked out of there, he makes that call to Mike and like, bam, like he's still alive. The same reason like an injured Lalo, I guess, can take these guys or whatever. These are, they're not quite Marvel villains, but they could be.
they really could be. And you said it, man. They're really doing a great job showing just what makes Gus Gus. The reason why that dude can pull off the shit he pulls off is because how smart he is. I mean, no questions asked here. And this was a brilliant move to control the threat of people that are maybe on your side a little bit and allies of you within the organization from turning on you, and also confirm something that's super critical that he needs to know to get this thing under wraps before it turns into something that costs him potentially with his life.
I agree with that there. And, I think you kind of tie Mike in here because he has most of his scenes with Gus in this episode. So do you think that, is this just like Mike being Mike, how he's protecting Nacho, or do you think he really has a soft spot for Nacho, or maybe a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B?
I think Mike, every chance he gets to do it, wants to do the right thing. He is, let's not forget, he's a police officer at heart. He still is, has the ability to know right and wrong. And when he can do right by somebody, who he respects a dude who sticks to his word and follows through. And Nacho's done everything right in terms of, doing what he was supposed to do. And I think Mike thinks the right thing to do here is to keep him as an ally on their side where they can control him and use him. And he could be a good chess piece that could be loyal to them. And he doesn't think it's right for him to just get killed here. He did everything he was supposed to do. And again, that goes into Mike wanting to do the right thing. I think at his core of core, he's a stand-up guy who, when he can do the right thing, he stands up for it, even if it's unpopular. I respect that about him.
100 over 100 on that. That's definitely the Mike way. But I would say that maybe he senses a bit of a kindred spirit in Nacho, because we've seen Nacho operate a lot like Mike. He tends to try to spread the wealth around. He doesn't talk down to people. He tries to respect people. And even when he has the option to kill, he doesn't do it unless he has to. And I think kind of Mike picks up on that a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of part of a weird kind of, fraternity or brotherhood or something like that. And plus, obviously, just, Michael Mando and Jonathan Banks are such terrific actors that I hope we get some more scenes between the two of them.
Couldn't agree more, Magnum Mills. Speaking of Nacho, random thought here. If Nacho eats nachos, does that make him a cannibal? Anyway, I don't know. I could talk all day about that. But Nacho plot here, baby. Let's get to it a little bit. Not to mix my food metaphors, but Nacho's a pretty smart cookie, isn't he, bro? How happy are you with Nacho here for figuring out that shit with the dude in that weird building across the way from him?
Yeah, because he goes over there and then he realizes that he doesn't, unless maybe short of torturing the dude, he doesn't have a good way to get the information out of him. So he figures it out. He's like, all right, if this dude's watching me, if I call, say I'm running, they're going to call this dude and flag him to be like, oh shit, see if he's running. And it plays out absolutely perfectly. And that shows you, maybe he's not playing the game on quite the Lalo level or the Gus Fring level, but Nacho, not only is he in the game, he's not playing on, the easy level or something like that. He could, maybe fuck some shit up here before we're all said and done.
Thought that was brilliant by him, and just how he figured it out to begin with, waiting for the food to come, because that's when he picked it up the first time, then just opening the door a crack and wait and seeing the shadow shift in that tiny hole. Super cool. Attention to detail. Again, every scene with Nacho, really intense. The show is way better off because of Nacho, and I stand by that. And it's not just because I'm hungry and I want some nachos.
We're not gonna deny you the cheese on top here. So let's talk about the culmination of that storyline in this episode, and that's when he has the face off versus the Cousins. And dude, this is like, they spent some budget here, man. That was, very tense, right? Because you see, Nacho really doesn't want to do it, but when he has to, he'll let the bullets rip. I have a little bit of feelings about how bad of shots people are in this, but I feel that's probably actually fairly realistic, more so than we're used to seeing on TV. And he wasn't a big truck or whatever. I'm a little surprised. I thought he was going to maybe get dinged on the way out, but that was, I don't know, man, that scene was just very intense. And I thought it was a great action scene. Again, the Cousins just badass to the end. They see him trying to hotwire the truck and they don't even hurry. They just slowly raise their guns.
Bro, they're like the Mexican Michael Myers. Like, they don't need to run.
Yeah.
They don't need to run after
Michael
you.
Myers is probably perfect. Absolutely.
They're just going to slowly get to you.
Yeah.
Yes. And when they get to you, it will be evil. And I love how they're so adamant about this, bro. They took out one of their own dudes because he was at risk of killing Nacho.
Yeah,
they just shot a dude in the
yeah.
head because they said alive. I mean, that's wild. Like, they're on the same team. They killed one of their guys. I mean, that's how ruthless these dudes are. I gotta be honest with you,
Must have been
Magnum,
fucked up growing up as a Salamanca. That's all I gotta say, man. That must have been. So
It's a
we've
tough
heard a
family.
little bit, but yeah, like looking at them and Lalo and yeah, dude, that was
Tough family. I gotta say here though, one thing about this scene, Magnum Mills, I didn't know the way it was shot. Especially the first time I watched this. I watched this episode a couple times now. I didn't know that that Nacho made it out of there, because it looked like the cousins had shot the tires. The tires exploded and he went crashing headfirst into their truck. So it's like, how far can he get? Did he hit that truck? And it looked like it was a big enough collision where maybe, but just maybe he wasn't moving anymore. The car wasn't moving and they were able to get him. There was some damage from that impact. Did he blow right through it? It didn't look like it. So I wasn't so sure until, the scene with Mike and Gus that Nacho made it out of there, and even then I was like, okay, is somebody playing Gus and the Salamancas playing Gus here by pretending to be Nacho? Like, it's still it's not a foregone conclusion to me that Nacho is free and on the run. And I think you might have seen this, took the scene in a little bit differently, but for me it was like, man, he is, as much as he could have gotten away, he could have also been stuck there and they could have him.
When this scene was taking place, is he kind of, they have the big kind of chicken almost where whereas the truck and they start going, he starts blasting through the windshield, they start blasting back.
Yeah.
And he kind of blind past and hit that truck. What I thought was going to happen is you were going to do the thing where then you kind of see in the distance the truck slowly stop and like they either zoom out on him or he gets out kind of bleeding or whatever. And then like the cousins come walking up or it just kind of just fades to the credits or something. I thought he was going to buy it there, dude. I really did. Like, I maybe it doesn't sound that way from the the recap, or I'm just going on how it happened. But when I was watching it, yeah, dude, I thought Nacho was going to buy it. Kind of, I was very scared for him.
Yeah, no, 100%. And dude, which sucks is I don't want to lose Nacho, bro, because every scene he's in is so intense, and I just can't get enough of it. Like, it's just give me more Nacho, dude. And yes, I want extra cheese and meat and pickled jalapenos. Magnum Mills, that brings us to the dynamic duo, Kim and Saul. How do you feel about the character Saul was trying out here? I mean, they weren't ever going to really work, were they?
All his like weird like verticulitis people or whatever.
Yeah.
Like diverticulous or whatever. Yeah. There was, kind of funny, a little bit of a chance to let Bob Odenkirk do something could have seen on Mr. Show or something like that, maybe. Yeah, that was
the Midwestern one. I love the Midwestern one though. My diabetes been acted like that was so great, dude. He had such a great Midwestern
accent. But don't
accent.
you get the feeling that it's almost like his heart's not into it, but B, he's also like probably deep down knows Kim already has a better idea, so he's just kind of like, all right, I did my thing. Like, just tell me what you're thinking. All right, I here's my bullshit. I don't know, tell me your real idea.
They're so perfect together, aren't they? God damn it, they're perfect for each other. I'm a sucker I'm a romantic at heart, bro, and they're perfect for each other.
And then the one thing at the kind of then when she's like, oh, I have the idea, but you're not gonna like it. What were you thinking when she said that?
Honestly, I had no idea. I was like, okay, this is either gonna have some. I was not thinking the Kellermans. I was thinking this was gonna have something to do, with. I didn't even know. I was like, man, could this be something where he's got to go back to like Chuck's house, or he's got to.
I thought it was something with Chuck. Personally,
like,
something with Chuck is what I thought. So I think
that's the only way I could go with it. Yeah,
that's pretty fair. And then we kind of get into the scene where Saul goes out to the Kellermans, runs the con job on him pretty beautifully. What did you think about that one? Because it did seem like, all right, like that's we saw him struggle a bit in the first episode. It kind of seemed like, all right, like, is it seeing that inflatable Statue of Liberty that really just like swells his heart up like the Grinch or something? But it seems like he's got his mojo back in that scene, right?
Definitely got a little bit of Saul Goodman's mojo, and it was in full effect. I loved it. As soon as he got out of the car and peeped that statue and the whole scene, he was ready to roll, and he played it perfectly. I mean, that was one of Slippin' Jimmy's better performances, in my opinion. And it's just, when Saul is on, Saul is on.
and talk about how good the show is. They portray it in a way that you understand exactly what's going on. Like they make the subtext text without deliberately saying it. Like, you know, when they come up, like you figure it out right as they're going, like, oh yeah, he wants this to happen. You know, it's not like, oh, you feel bad that he's getting shot down and it's some big twist. Like you figure out kind of with like, so like, oh yeah, this is part of the plan. This is part of, oh yep, this is definitely part of the plan. And Odenkirk does such just, you know, just these little facial expressions, especially kind of when he's walking away, waiting for them to come back to sign or whatever. He lets himself have just this little tiny, like I said, like the Grinch, like the corner of his mouth just turns out just as he can't help himself, just a tiny bit. It's just, you know, it's nice to bring these people back, because remember him talking to Mike being like, dude, we had like $5 million from these people, we could have just taken it, we didn't. So this is a chance for him to, you know, maybe get a little bit of the revenge on top of that. So it's a little bit of maybe, you know, slipping Jimmy coming through here.
Yeah, and how cool were the Kellermans? I mean, Betsy really runs the roost there, but it was super funny to just see her just bossing around. I think it's Claude, right?
Yeah, I mean, again,
like,
no shameless plug, but we've covered Peaky Blinders on our podcast, PvP, a Peaky Blinders podcast. In spoilers, kind of for that, and this is fairly generic, but they remind me very much of Diane and Mosley, right? Like Craig thinks like he's running the shit because he has the position, or really, but Betsy's the one with all the fucking hand. 100%, right? Are they not?
100%.
They're Mosley and Diana, dude. That's what.
Oh,
they
dude,
are. If you watch Peaky Blinders and this, the sixth season of Peaky Blinders, you will understand this, and you will. We're right, correct? Like, let us know in the comments, but I really feel like that's a very fair analogy here.
Yeah, they're better people than Mosley and Diane,
but they're the same relationship dynamic.
Relationship role,
exact same relationship dynamic. Yes. I feel.
Yes, and it was just it's a little bit more, you know, hunky dory, good old
right. No,
American family. It's funny, but. Yes.
Yeah, this is a little bit, they're just scammers.
And it's, you know, Betsy's a little cute with it, and it's just, gosh darn it, go, gee golly williker. Like, I like that element.
But it's all a front, really, you know, cool. It like it's a front in the way that, you know, Saul shit, like, because he sees right through it. He knows, you know, but he knows that she probably needs a stick, and he does refer to her as kind of like, oh, well, maybe she could take the carrot, but he knows that's not true. And I think that's just him, you know, a little bit of, you know, Jimmy / Saul being in denial there.
Magnum Mills, I guess that brings us to, you know, the fact that we don't technically see Saul or Kim, but how we see the scene with the Kellermans in Cliff, Maine. I really like this. I mean, I have to say that none of the main characters being involved, and I still really enjoyed the scene. Like, there was some humor in there. It played into to what, you know, Saul had planted the seed with earlier. He knew when he said, you know, don't let some asshole like, you know, Cliff, Maine and Davis or somebody like that steal this from under me. Like, he knew what he was doing, and it worked to a T. And I really enjoy, you know, Cliff, Maine just jamming on his guitar, bro. He's pretty sweet.
Well, see, he's jamming at first, but then at the end of the scene, he can't play anymore because he's a little bit perplexed by it. And they've done the perfect job. It's Inception, right? All they're trying to do is they can't come out and say it. They have to like plant a tiny seed and let him follow it, you know, so to speak, on an Office Space thing, jump to his own conclusions. He's got to put that man out there and figure out what he wants to do. You know, you had Ed Begley Jr., right? You know, gets Cliff, Maine, just fantastic here, because he's always just, dude is like exasperated all the time. I've never met someone so exasperated all the time. He's just like, oh, well, you know, I think it's perfect for the character and everything. I think it's a positive. He makes every scene kind of interesting, even when he's dealing with Hamlin. He just kind of has this weird energy, you know, and I think it works.
Bro, he's always had that weird energy in everything he's ever in, and the dude hasn't really aged at all. I mean, still looks the same as like the
Arrested Development and stuff like that. Dude definitely vibes on a certain level, and
I love it. And I will say before we move on, I enjoyed Erin, the receptionist from Davis and Maine, where Saul used to work. That was, you know, back when he was Jimmy. She's a great character. It was
because she got shit on by the Kellermans, and yes, she definitely does like delivers that kind of like foul dialogue very well. You know, remember her doing it, I think, outside the nursery home when Saul to like do the confession over the loudspeaker or whatever. Yeah, she's pretty great. I wouldn't mind seeing her come back up again.
Yep.
All right, so that, you know, we did that. And that kind of brings us to when you got Saul, you got Kim, and they're talking about how to deal with the Kellerman. So Jamie G, what is your preferred form of persuasion? It has to be one that doesn't involve coconut oil or the like. Are you a stick guy or carrot guy from a managerial sense?
I am a combo platter guy. I'm a carrot stick carrot. I know that's like the easy way out, but I combine both because that's what works best for me. I am a combination guy. I like to do the old sandwich platter where you start with the carrot, you hit with the stick, and you end with the carrot.
Yes, both will generally find a blend. Like you just basically decide, a compliment where you sandwich, an insult between two compliments. So that
Yes.
that makes it okay. Yeah, you don't want to be passive aggressive, whatever. I generally think you get better results with the carrot, but that depends on who you're surrounding yourself with. And here it's hard to tell. Like, for instance, if you look at this show from the start of season 1 to now, it really feels like you have Jimmy/Saul and Kim, and they've almost like changed poles, right? At the beginning, Saul was a public defender who used a stick. And now he's kind of graduated to this guy who's working for the cartel and wants to use a carrot. Meanwhile, you had Kim, who was the up and coming lawyer who wanted to have the carrot. And now she has transitioned all the way to being a public defender who wants to use a stick. I don't know, man. I'm kind of scared about where they're taking Kim here.
Look, it's real. It's they're highlighting it for a reason. It's happening every episode now, and it started with the damn everything's fun and games in a game of finger guns until real bullets start flying, and they're flying here. Magnum Mills, they are flying with Kim.
Oh man, they really have taken her all the way around. Right to that her statement from that final scene of season 5 where she's like, "Well, wouldn't I?" Talking about no limitations. I think this is Kim trying to see where her line is. Like she never really tested it before. Now she kind of like she keeps sticking her foot out and there's no line. So she keeps sticking out further and further. And it's just a matter of, man, how far is she willing to go? And my guess is like kind of the way this is reading to me is that she's eventually going to be willing to go further than Saul will be to get this Hamlin thing closed.
I have a feeling that she will. Magnum Mills, let's talk about that final scene with Saul, Kim, and the Kellermans. Saul, Kim, and the Kellermans. Doesn't that kind of sound like some strange jam band from the 1960s? Anyways, what do you think? Did you think Saul was going to be able to placate them, or were you just waiting for Kim to swoop in and just become the beast that she is and just completely save the day?
Well, I feel like Saul, Kim, and the Kellermans probably did appear on like the Scooby-Doo joint back in the day. I'd have to check that out. Honestly, I think Saul knew that Kim had him. Like he was kind of almost half-heartedly doing it because he just thought he'd give him the money, I think. And then once they declined the money, he was like, all right, Kim got this. That's honestly how I read it. I don't know, did we at any point like going up to that, I know we saw him print a check or whatever, but I never really got any impression that the Kellermans were running a scam. And right, I mean, I don't think that was like textual in the show anywhere that we should have caught it. But I don't think Saul caught it either. So I think that's just showing like Kim somehow sitting there, just listening to them talk, figured it out or whatever. I mean, she's pretty fucking amazing, right?
Yeah, she's 100% amazing. She knows, because I guarantee you she probably did a little bit of prep work, and that's why she wanted to go. She knew what type of schemes little shit tax prep places like that can run, and she was all over it. And her money was on, I bet you, given the way Betsy Kellerman is and how they lost everything and the desperation that's there, they're running that little scheme. And she bet on black, and baby, always bet on black.
Yeah, I like your Passenger 57 reference there. So do you think that she knew, like that Kim knew that before they went to that meeting and she was just kind of like humoring Saul and letting him do his thing? Or do you think she figured out when she was there?
I think she knew before they went to that meeting.
The way you pitch it, I agree. I think that she probably did her little research, or either that because she has, a deeper background in the real law. Nothing against Saul, but he doesn't study the cases like she does or whatever. Like I remember dealing with Chuck, he could pull these cases off the top of his head. Kim can do that too. Jimmy's willing to do the work, but he needs someone to kind of point him in the right direction a little bit. He's more of a feelings lawyer, so to speak. I'm not saying fuck your facts, but Jimmy is definitely, he lawyers on, general kind of, feeling and outrage.
His gut.
A little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what they teach you when you get a law degree from the American Samoa University. So, I mean, that's important to
Man,
note
I must have missed that week. I mean, that's, and then we get to the very end of the episode and Saul does, we mentioned in the recap, he makes that reference to the wolves and the sheep. that callback to him seeing his pops get hustled. It kind of feels to me like, I don't know, it feels like maybe that's a little bit thematic for kind of this final season here, where it's ultimately Saul trying to figure out, who are the wolves and who the sheep are, right? Because it seemed pretty clear, but now he's the one like giving money to the Kellermans when he didn't need to, like they already had him. And Kim's kind of like a little bit disgusted that he gave them the money. I don't know. It just seems that the lines are getting a little bit blurred again for Saul, which scares me because something is going to happen to make the lines very fucking crystal clear again. And I'm just scared of what that, traumatic event will be.
I think we kind of know what it's likely to be, and I think that's why it's so scary, Magnum Mills.
Nothing good. It's likely to be nothing good, right?
Yes.
All right. That's depressing enough, dude. I think that's it. That's basically the second episode. Now let's have more fun, like random speculation, rank some shit, nonsense. And all right, so you're, let's go back to your neck of the woods, Jamie G, and you're kind of like I don't know the quite how do you phrase this? You have somewhat nebulous ties to the legal profession. So any thoughts on the lawyers or practicing of the law in this episode?
Yeah, I mean, Jamie G as a professional, as Jamie G Esquire the fifth, right? I mean, I'm actually starting to question just how good of a lawyer, Saul is here. I mean, at least in my humble experience, a duffel bag full of money is usually the solution to any problem. You know what I mean? Why even overthink it?
Yeah, and well, I get like you're really a part of the bar association, right?
Absolutely, Magnum Mills. I mean, I'm totally a member of the Bartenders Association.
If you say so, man. You've successfully wasted my time, so maybe you really are a lawyer. What else we got here?
Well, it's time for Mike's Always Right. Pretty simple, folks. We examine the actions of Never Doubt the Mike Ehrmantraut in this episode and ask one simple question. Was Mike right?
Let's see here. Mike thinks they should do the right thing by Nacho, who did everything was asked of him. Okay. He also thinks they need to find Nacho before the Salamancas do. Okay. That's pretty much it. Tell me what's wrong with any of that.
Not a goddamn thing, Magnum Mills. No half measures there. That's it, folks. As usual, never doubt the Ehrmantraut because Mike is always right.
Never doubt the Ehrmantraut and Jamie G. That makes it time for the third track on Supreme Clientele.
Ooh, that's right. We have to name only one moment of our line from the episode. Just our absolute favorite here. No pressure at all, Magnum Mills. But what do you have for us?
Oh, it's what you see behind me. Just look at the sheer joy on Saul's face when he sees this giant Statue of Liberty thing. I'm sorry if you're listening on the podcast, but it is the scene when he first rolls up to the Kellerman's, little setup they have there in the desert with the trailer and the giant inflatable Statue of Liberty. I think that just speaks to the aesthetic Saul will want to use going forward. I think this is very important because it obviously this image and this inflatable Statue of Liberty sticks with him. So I got to go with that. How about you, Jamie G?
For me, my dude, I got to go with, because he's always right, I got to go like Mike. All right. Mike Ehrmantraut. I really like the scene where he pushes back on Gus. Gus is telling him, Mike gives his suggestion. Gus says no, and instead opts to have Mike bring in Nacho's father, Manuel. There was that scene earlier in the episode when Mike was in Nacho's safe and he saw the ID for his father. Mike says, "You're not doing that." A gun gets pointed at his face. What's he do? He turns around, he closes the fucking door and locks it, goes right back to face that gun in his face. You're not doing it. I just love this. I mean, what more character and balls could you possibly want on a Mike, as he is proving right before our eyes, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching how Mike becomes Gus Fring's number one guy. That's impressive shit, dude. This was a big scene for me because of that. Who else is going to tell Gus no?
I don't even know. I mean, that's Mike, dude. He's like a masked Avenger who's not a masked Avenger. I mean, I don't even to paraphrase, he wants 8 ravioli bags, 2 thirsty villains yelling belly aches, dude. He is just a heavy wait, rhyme writer. And he's got the grass. That's the ripest. Seriously, Ghostface references aside, Mike Ehrmantraut, there's a reason we don't doubt him.
Never doubt the Ehrmantraut. Magnum Mills, I guess that brings us to the portion of this episode, this podcast special of Saul Over Soon, where we swipe right on our 5-star Sauls. And this is basically just a power ranking of characters as we end the episode here. In this case, episode 2. We'll start at the bottom at our 1-star Saul. We'll work our way up to our 5-star Saul. Only getting 1 star isn't the greatest, Magnum Mills, but I do need to remind you, it is better than going unranked. I'll start us off here with my 1-star Saul, and that is, I'm again lumping them together here, but I'm going Betty and Claude, the Kellermans. Okay, I'm going the Kellermans. You know, we start this episode off. They've got this kind of out in the middle of nowhere, shitty trailer, tax prep business. And you know how far they've fallen from the graces here, but they get some news from Saul that could potentially give them their lives back. And where they end this episode is completely being owned by the great Kim Wexler. And now they're worse off than they were before, because now they got to return any of the money they're skimming off from the top. So for that reason, the Kellermans are my 1-star Saul.
My 1-star Saul here is Saul himself. He has to, he gets a little bit of a downgrade here. He gets the Kellermans to do what he wants. But other than that, he's really not on his game here. Again, at the end, Kim has to swoop in and save him. So I believe on our last episode, I had him as my 3-star Saul. Got to bring him down to 1 here because I still think he's worth ranking. But he's still not quite on top of the game, despite, doing well in that first encounter with the Kellermans. I kind of think that they're just kind of easy, really. Kim let him have that one. And at my 2-star Saul here, I have to go with Mike. Not a lot of hand, but he's standing on his principles. Gotta love that. So be like Mike, 2-star Saul. He's doing what he has to do, even if he knows it will have detrimental consequences for him.
Yeah, guys got balls. Magnum Mills, my 2-star Saul is going to be Gus Fring. Again, he is kind of hovering in this range of like not being in control, not knowing who totally to trust. He wants to trust Mike because he gives him a voice, but he's not necessarily going along with what he's saying. He also was really smart here in outplaying Hector, but he doesn't necessarily know that Lalo and the entire cartel think that he's behind it. So he's still a little bit behind the 8 ball there. And he's just not operating in the position of total power like we're used to seeing. So for that reason, Gus stays as my 2-star Saul. Moving on to my 3-star Saul, I am going to give it up for my dude, Ignacio. That's right. Nacho all day, every day. This dude has the best scenes, it seems like for me, are involving Nacho, just his intensity, what he does from a face actor standpoint. Again, we talked a lot about this on our incredible podcast that you should go and fucking listen to right now, called the Peaky Blinders podcast, where we break down the incredible show Peaky Blinders, and we talk about Cillian Murphy's just ability to do the shit he does with his face without even saying words when he's playing the legend Tommy Shelby. Okay, well, Nacho has a little bit of this in him as well. I love what he does, and honestly, just in the scheme of the show, he went from being holed up in a hotel, not even a hotel, a motel. Okay, not knowing whether or not he was being set up to wait and die, or if there was actually going to be a truck that comes through that he can hop on the back. He figures out some shit, he acts on it, and he ends up getting away, at least for now. At least that's what we think. So he's alive. That moves him up a notch, and he's a smart cookie, as Magnum Mills alluded to earlier in this episode. So Nacho, your numero tres for me when it comes to stars and Sauls.
Yeah, I'm not even worried about kind of mixing the food references. I also have Nacho at my number 3. He made a decision. He figured out, all right, like, I'm not going to wait and depend on some other people. I'm going to go out on my own. Definitely on the come up here. I agree with basically everything you said, so no need to rehash it. Number 4, I got to drop Lalo down a notch here because he didn't appear in this episode. That's literally the only thing that can take Lalo down is him not appearing in this episode. So that's it. Lalo, all the great things I said on the previous episode. If you didn't listen to that episode before this one. Not quite sure how you're doing this thing. You should really listen to, that one before this one. But, like Jadakiss said, knock yourself out. Jamie G, who's your 4-star Saul?
My 4-star Saul is my man, Mike Ehrmantraut. Now, I know that you said he didn't have a ton of action in this episode and a ton of hand, but bro, I love what Mike's doing here. We are watching, as I alluded to earlier, as I talked about my favorite moment, we are watching before our very eyes the emergence of the Mike Ehrmantraut we know, we love, we respect in the Breaking Bad universe. This is how he gets there, dude. He's always had the skill set. He's always been dynamite. This is how he earns his keep and becomes Gus Fring's literal #1 problem solver. Like, he is the best fixer, the best dude, ultimate trust, loyalty, you name it. He's like bona fide ride or die. He's amazing. We're watching him do it right now, standing up to Gus Fring and knowing that it may cost him his life. That's balls, bro. I don't know too many guys or gals that would be willing to do that. For that, Mike Ehrmantraut, I will never doubt, baby. He stays at my number 4.
All right, then, dude. Give us that Cinco, man. That number 5, the top of the charts. Your 5-star Saul for episode 2.
My 5-star Saul is, she's just everything. If you had a daughter and you raised her to be like this, you'd be so proud of her. I'm going Kim Wexler. How smart is she? How just her ability to not be bullied in any situation, to totally take control. She is the ultimate alpha, but she also has enough love and respect to give Saul a couple of layup wins. I just can't not have her at 5. Kim Wexler, you're the shit. Stay alive. Come rescue Gene somewhere out there. Give us a happy ending universe. That's all we want, baby. That's all we want.
Yeah, I also have Kim as my 5-star Saul. Not going to really rehash what you said, but the more I think about it, like we saw her get a scene with Lalo in season 5. I definitely need a scene with Kim and Gus Fring. If the show and her and Mike, and then somehow I want her and Lalo and Gus and Saul all in a scene, and then they all start talking, and then Saul realizes he's overmatched, so he just kind of like fades back and lets Kim deal with it. Because I feel like Kim really is like, she's the best of like Chuck and Jimmy put together, kind of. She understands the street smart, but she also understands the law and is put in the work and has that level of intelligence. So again, like I said, it's going to be really hard to knock Kim off. Kim and Lalo are the top 2 dogs for a minute here, and people are going to have to do work to knock them off that pedestal for me.
Man, oh man, Magnum Mills, that is, I can't argue a thing you just said, bro.
I did go say sorry. So fuck it, we'll do another Woo reference. Let's do that pinky ring shit. Let's grade the episode on a scale of 1 to 10. Marco's pinky rings 1 to 10 for this episode. Carrot and Stick, Jamie G. Give me them rings.
Man, oh man, I'm gonna keep this thing loaded up with the bling. I'm going 9 rings, even a little bit down from episode 1, but that's really just because episode 1, I don't know, I just loved it so much. This is not a bad episode at all. Incredibly good. Still staying in the 9s for me. 9 on the dot. Great episode, Magnum Mills. How many pinky rings you got on this baby?
I'm also going to go with the 9 flat, the 9.0. I believe I had 8.8 in the last episode. I don't know if it was a better episode, but because, like say, we didn't check in on Lalo and Howard Hamlin here, it felt a little bit more focused. I was really, into the thing the whole time. I think especially the showdown there with Nacho and the cousins put it over the top for me. So I think that, that 90%, that 9 pinky rings, as Larissa would say, I think that's that pinky ring shit, yo.
That is that pinky ring shit indeed. Mills, I like to do a little bit of gun to your dick, quick answers, questions here, okay? No, I'm not going to literally press a Desert Ease up against your steez, but metaphorically, I want you to envision feeling that bump. Now, when Nacho gets on the phone, what the hell do you think he's going to say to Gus Fring? He could go 1 or 2 ways. He could literally tell him off, or he could beg him for his life. What is he going to say to keep himself alive here?
I think it's pretty simple. If I get caught by the Salamancas, I'm going to just say everything. That's his best bet of getting a clean death. That's a threat he has to give, right? He has to have value to bring. And if he's like, oh, I'm not going to say anything, I don't think, Gus would believe him. And I don't think it's going to buy him any any hand there. So I think his only chance is to be like, dude, I am going to squeal everything as fast as I can unless you help me out, and I'm only going to trust Mike.
Yeah, I agree with him forcing Mike to take control of the situation. Mike, I have a feeling, brings this thing to a close, and that just might be how he cements himself in Gus's ring of trust. Magnum Mills, let's go back to Cliff Main, that cool ass guitar jamming attorney over in Albuquerque. Is he going to start like digging into Howard Hamlin a little bit here? I mean, this is we're finally getting enough doubt. We saw how he looked when they mentioned, Howard having a drug problem when the Kellermans came, and we saw him kind of brush it off to Aaron, his receptionist, but he said it in a way with a facial expression where he's like, shit, I'm starting to kind of believe this a little bit. I mean, how could he not? He saw the powder in the thing. Now he's hearing this. All of a sudden now there's a little bit of smoke. Maybe there's some fire there.
Yeah, I think he absolutely will, because if you do kind of break it down, Hamlin's personality, he's kind of that over energetic, hyper competent. You can see it a little bit. So it's not quite something maybe that all the guys on the yard are talking about, like Craig said in jail, not about Khalees and her milkshake. But yeah, I could kind of buy something like that. How about you, Jamie? Do I'm guessing you probably agree with me here.
Agree 100%. Could nothing more that I would add to that. I think it happens, and the plan's in motion, and it's just so crazy it's working.
Yeah, and that brings us to maybe one more quick one here. And the Kellermans. Do you think we see them again or not?
Man, this is a tough one for me. I'm gonna say no, we don't see them again. I think that's about it. Any other predictions or theories, Magnum Mills, before we get out of here?
All right, so let's go big or go home here, right? So we didn't get the Gene scene to start episode 1 like we were expecting. So you have to figure, all right, so now you got 7 episodes in this first part. And then I did read again, we're spoiling mainstream stuff here. There was an interview that like Peter Gould, co-creator, showrunner, did, talking about how, yes, we were going to do things with the better breaking timeline, but it wasn't quite what or when you expected. So I'm going to say something crazy and just throw it out there, in that somehow, in theory, the events of the Better Call Saul timeline end at the end of episode 7. In the final 7 episodes, those last 7, they take place after the events of Breaking Bad.
Wow.
That would kind of suck, because it takes, Mike off the table, takes Gus off the table, takes Walter White off the table. But hey, you could still do a lot of things there. And what does that would it be kind of interesting to see kind of Saul and Kim get back together and try to rebuild it up in those last 7 episodes? And do I think they'll go there? No. But do I think that would be kind of super fun and interesting? Absolutely.
Bro, I would love it, man. I would love to give me Gene's life and how he longs for that love he once had with Kim.
And they get back together, and then somehow, but they have nothing. They have to recreate their identities and start from scratch. And I mean, it would be like its whole own show. I don't think they would do it, but I would be incredibly interested in it. And any thoughts on how we get to see Walter White here? Because I think it has to be through Kim somehow, but I'm not quite figuring out how they'll ever interact.
I'm going to take the easy way out here, man, and just say that it's some sort of flashback it's a Breaking Bad scene. And I know that would be kind of an easy way out for them to utilize Walt, but for right now, that that's my hunch, is we're going to start getting more and more kind of scenes of Breaking. They're not going to turn the show into Breaking Bad at all, but I just think it's either a vision from the future or a scene that has something to do with something. It could be that opening scene where he's screaming, where they bring him into the desert. I don't know. I just think it's going to be something Breaking Bad related. That's where I'm going.
Well, I actually I don't know if what if kind of I've talked about, maybe somehow Kim winds up taking the fall for Jimmy / Saul, so to speak, and then she is reduced to, at some point during this season, she has to go teach law, intro to law, pre-law at a community college where Walter White happens to be teaching. She's not there for long, but they get to share a scene together or whatever.
Love it. Absolutely.
That work, maybe that's the best that just came to me right now. I did not have any idea. The way you were talking led me to that, and that seems to almost be the most logical thing.
Yeah, no, dude,
I'm sure tomorrow I'll come up with another more logical thing, but for right now, that actually seems like that could happen without interfering with the continuity of Breaking Bad.
100% Magnum Mills. Love it.
Like they have a conversation and Walt says something to her that makes her quit the teaching job. Like he talks about his regret about not pursuing like his ultimate thing or whatever. So that would pay off both Walter White's kind of ambition and to tell Kim, like, don't settle for this bullshit ass community college teaching job.
We could see it. We could envision it. And perhaps we should be writing shows. Maybe one day we will. I think that's a wrap, Magnum Mills. What is up next for this amazing podcast, Saul Over Soon?
Obviously, we're going to be covering episode 3 of season 6. That's titled Rock in a Hard Place, scheduled to air April 25th. Our coverage of that episode will be out on Wednesday, April 27th.
Whew. Thanks again for checking us out. We really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. Might not mean that much to you, but please keep doing it. Remember to like, subscribe on YouTube, rate, comment on the podcast. Just stay in touch with us, man. We do this because we love it. We know you guys do too. We appreciate you a ton. Just keep it moving. Mills, tell these people where they can find all of our other content that happens to be awesome. And did we mention free? That's right. It doesn't cost you a single solitary penny.
Yeah, well, like the very famous 90s house artist Reel to Reel, we like to move it. So thank you for moving on, checking us out on the Saul Over Soon podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform, on social media at Saul Over Soon. You can send us feedback at sauloversoon@gmail.com, or from the Joe Blow Football Show, who you can find at joeblowfootballshow.com, and on social media at Joe Blow Show. We continue to cover It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because the gang is terrible, yet somehow completely awesome on our podcast / show, Nightbot Cometh. Find us at Nightbot Cometh on social media and your favorite podcast platform. And we are about to cover the final 7 episodes of the show Ozark from Netflix, for the Ozark Podcast, who you can find at Ozark Podcast on social media and on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you very much for checking us out. I'm Magnum Mills. He's Jamie G. And remember, you got to buckle up because you're in the game now. And
it's Saul Over Soon.
That it is, baby. That it is. This has been Saul Over Soon, a Better Call Saul podcast. This show is for entertainment purposes only. We are in no way affiliated with Better Call Saul, AMC, Sony Pictures Television, Netflix, or any other production company or association. The views here are those of the hosts only and do not represent any other entity. Thanks again for checking us out, and stay tuned because it's Saul Over Soon.